Hello! Ha! I think my cousin's on here already. I'll just wait a little bit. I feel like this music is so, like elevator music 2.0. Hello! Hi, Sunarin! And Ilivagar. I think that's Ely. And Duck Fat Fries. And Lachlan, yes, hey, come back! You are back this time, hello! So many more people! Like, I don't understand why my thing is not showing you guys, but I see you in the chat, I just don't see you in the, like, users section. So, I didn't realize y'all were all in here. Maybe I need to, like, open this on actual Twitch, so I have the actual, users list on here. I wonder if I can see. Whatever. We'll just swing it. Thanks for coming by. Sunarin and Duck Fat Fries. How do you guys know about me? Are you on Twitter or TikTok or? I know Lachlan and Ilivagar. Yay! Thanks for being back! Lachlan, I've been waiting all day for this too. This has been the highlight of my day, to be honest. At work, I was just waiting for this. I honestly don't do any work at my real job anymore, let's be real. Oh, you're at work too? Okay, don't do a good job at work, okay? Don't be crazy like me. I'm just gonna chill out for a while because I'm waiting for Allie, who this stream is technically for. Oh! I'm just responding. People who are just listening in are probably like, why is she saying so many, like, things? I'm glad that you are here, Duck Fat Fries. That's great to have you. Just so you guys know, I have, like, a whole, like, crash. This is gonna be kind of like a crash course on Procreate today. So I know Ilivagar uses Clip Studio, so some of these techniques might be able to kind of translate over, but mostly this is just gonna be like how I use. Hey, Sakusa's mask. Is that May? Hello. Thanks for coming. I'm so glad you're here. This is so much fun. Now that I actually gave you guys time to, like, prepare for the stream, y'all are actually here and I'm so happy. Oh, I'm gonna cry. All the support. Ooh! Oh yes, the new MacBook. Oh, so good. Jules and Tina and Nat say hi. Hi, guys. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad. I know, Lachlan. Isn't it nice to have friends? Nice to have friends actually here now. Dustin, will you keep Watson from barking? She can come in here. My dog she wants to be a part of the journey as well, so sorry if she barks. She just wants to be able to use Procreate, that's all it is. Tater tots. I don't know why I read that so weird. Tater tots. Oh, the reason I'm using this kind of music is this is no copyright music, so my husband realized, oh hey, the music you're playing on in the background is you're not going to be able to post that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go and find an actual no copyright playlist. So yeah, Twitch users have denied people who contribute to their... So yeah, I'm yeah, exactly. So hey, Allie is here. Okay, I guess we can kind of get started. So any questions, like right off the bat? I have different sections that I'm gonna go over, just some general tips, and then like fundamentals, like about brushes and layers and, you know, colors and how to do the different tools, and then I'm gonna go over some sort of effects that I use a lot. Obviously every artist is different, but basically oh my gosh, guys, my aunt is on here. She says, we will write you some smooth jazz. Some smooth jams. Yay! Thanks for coming, you guys. This is so much fun. My aunt is actually a music teacher, so I hope my, like, teaching skills are up to snuff. I haven't actually taught anything in a long time, so this might just be, like, total winging it. But, you know, that's how we do art, okay, man? You'll like jazz? Oh man. Okay. On the new MacBook. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, Allie. Yes. All right. So, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and start. I'm going to kind of ignore the chat for a little bit. So, if you guys have questions, I'll repeat my, like, hey, do you have questions? So, if I don't see it, feel free to type it again. Y'all can kind of talk amongst yourselves, but I'm gonna kind of put the chat over here, or else I'm just gonna forever be I'm gonna forever be staring at it, and get totally distracted. So okay, so a couple things that I want to note, and I'll show you guys here like what I'm doing with my pen. If you have the same pen as me, if you have the first generation iPad pen, some of these gestures might not work, so just kind of keep that in mind. I am working on an iPad Pro. If you're working on the iPad Air version, some of these gestures might not work, so just keep that in mind. But these mostly are just kind of Procreate tips just in general. So the first section I wanted to go over is just like the tips and tricks that I use on a daily basis, and some of these have like really saved my butt on a couple of occasions. So I'll just kind of go ahead and start. So first things first, I have a image that's already been kind of played with, and I'm going to use it as an example, but basically I'm going to clear this layer and start from scratch. So first things first is the double or triple tap gesture. This is, I know it sounds kind of like weird to like name it like that, but basically when you use Procreate, there's a really easy way to undo it, and that is to double tap. So I am now double tapping with two fingers like this, saying hello, and then with just two fingers, just tap it and you can undo it. And that's like one of the best things ever. You probably have seen the jokes where like people that go onto a sketchbook after they've used an iPad for a long time, they like start trying to like undo with the tap. I have done it. I won't deny it. So, but a lot of people don't know that the redo is a 3-finger tap. So I just undid with a double a double finger tap, and now I'm going to redo it with a 3-finger tap. See? So you can kind of double, triple, kind of go back and forth. If you don't like something, or if you want to like see the difference between a change you just made, you can kind of double or triple tap to go back out. The next thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you are kind of going to fill in a circle, you can do like you have your shape, and then up here, you see up here in this little thingy up here, you can drag the color and fill it in. So like, let's say you're like, oh, I'm gonna make a little Mickey Mouse over here. You can just drag the colors in. And that is super helpful, especially when you want to fill in large areas. You can kind of just like play with it like that. And then again, double tap to erase and say, oh, I don't like that. So I'm actually gonna make his ears a little pink color. And see like that. So that is another tip that I really like to use, is the color fill. Now, kind of on that same realm, this is sort of, I know I'm going a little bit fast, but in this button here, this little S button, I don't even know what it is. I think it stands for selection, but this is the selection tool. And it defaults to the freehand method, which means you can kind of draw and select what you want, and then, oh hey, I'm gonna fill in that section, or I'm gonna kind of like I don't know, I don't know. That's really all I use it for. A lot of people will do like, ooh, I'm gonna draw like mountains. Ooh, you know, like there you go. And that's, or I don't know what I just did. I think I did it badly, but you can kind of go in there and just sort of like draw out your design and then close the loop and then do whatever you want. I use it for the fill tool, but you can also use it to like, if you don't like a section, you can kind of select and then swipe up and cut, or you can use the eraser tool and like, oh, I just want to erase this much right here from the little guy, and then you're done. That's a good use of the selection tool. The other thing that you can do with the selection tool is the color fill option right here. It's similar to how the drag and drop to color fill is, but basically as soon as you close the loop, it will fill it in for you. Now, if you by chance do this and you're like, oh wait, I don't want any more colors, like if you go in here and you're like, oh, I just want to select this, and you forget you have this thing on, just turn it off. It'll make sure it stays the right way, and then you can do the change that you need to make afterwards. So I hope that kind of makes sense on the color tool, the lasso tool. That's just sort of something to keep in mind. This is something I use every day. You know, when you're trying to draw something that is, you know, like, okay, you have your face. Ooh, happy face. Yay. And then you want their hair to be like, ooh, spiky and colored in. You can just be like, oh, here we go. Gonna color in his hair. And then that saves you a lot of time. You can just, there it is. Oh no, I just looked at the chat. Okay. I'm gonna forget what Lachlan said. Oh boy. Okay, so that's what we have for this. I'm going to kind of, I forgot what I was gonna do. Okay. Another thing that you can do with this is, we'll get to the layers in a bit. I'm not gonna distract you, so I'm gonna clear this layer and start fresh so we can keep going. Another thing that I really like to use is when you're going to look at your canvas, one of the things that I like to do is turn on this little reference guide. This is the latest reference that I used for this drawing. You can see here, and you can kind of look at the drawing and look at your reference image, and you can kind of go back and forth between, oh, this is where her arm is, this is where the face is looking. Obviously, like, I turned it into Dazai from Bungo Stray Dogs, but that's the kind of thing, like, to get perspective. You can have this like thing open and you can actually zoom in on it while you have it, and you're like, oh, okay, her face is a little bit more angular. Do I want to keep it like that, or do I want to kind of tilt her face down? That's another tool that you can use, that I use regularly, is that reference image. So kind of going forward with what we're talking about is basically just play with it. There's so much in this app that we will go over most of it, but like, I figured out half this stuff by like accidentally shading this in and being like, oh wait, I don't like that, but then like, oh, whoa, what did that happen? What did that do? Like, ooh. And then, you know, and I don't like that, so I'll delete it and then I'll start fresh, you know. So that's like half of the way you learn, is just, you know, brute force it, play with the buttons, you know. Anyway, so kind of going forward, I'm gonna stop for a minute and ask if you guys have any questions, because I just went through like a bunch of stuff and I don't know if I'm going too fast or if I'm just sort of like talking a whole lot, or do you guys have any questions? I'm gonna take a sip of water. Which shortcut do you use the most aside from undo and redo? Yes, the most used shortcut that I use is the 4-finger swipe up. Oh, I'm sorry. The 4-finger tap. So when you do that, I have a shortcut menu that basically goes, you can flip horizontally to check your proportions. That's just kind of a method that a lot of people use to like, okay, it looks really weird when it's reversed. Why does it look weird? And then you can edit like that. Obviously, you can change these in the gesture menu, which is over here. Gesture controls, you can kind of go in. And this is where the app gets like really complicated. I have the 4-finger tap to be the quick menu, but you can change it to be any of this. I also have my erase button is assigned, all this stuff, and that's one of the other things that I use is when you're using the 2nd generation Apple Pencil, you can double tap on it and it will switch between the eraser and the pen. So you see how I'm doing that? There it goes to the eraser. There it goes to the pen, eraser, pen. That's probably the most used one. I just don't think about it anymore. Of course, now I'm double tapping. So yeah, that's what I do. Next. Did I have a good day? Yes, I did have a good day. I actually bought myself a new iPad because I'm crazy. I am currently using, this is the, all my stickers, yeah. This is the 11-inch, and I wanted a bigger space to work with, and I considered buying a Wacom tablet, but then I realized I'd have to really change my workflow, so I decided to get the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, so we'll see how that goes. I will most likely be getting rid of my 11-inch at that point, so that's my day. It's a great speed. It helps when I hover over the buttons so you can see them. Yeah, that was the one thing when I've done tutorials before, like I've had the mouse cursor that kind of shows where my pen is like at, but if I'm like, oh, I'm clicking this button here, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to see, so I will keep that in mind. Thank you. How do I set up the shortcut menu? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, Allie. So basically, yeah, go in here into the preferences. So the little gear icon, this thingy, and then preferences. And then, yeah, you can change all this stuff to be whatever you prefer. The gesture controls, I still haven't tried a lot of this yet, but it basically, you can kind of, anyway, the quick menu is what I did with the 4-finger tap. And I would really recommend you use that. That's something I just recently figured out, because I mean, I was really struggling to figure out, like, how do you flip the canvas? That's something when I was using Photoshop is like, oh my gosh, it's like, I need to be able to flip the thing. That's one of the only glitches, though, is that if you're zoomed in pretty far, it, like, won't show you the menu fully. So, anyway, that's how you set that up, and I would suggest just keep playing with it, or Google if you're trying to do something specific, because most likely it can do that. Okay. Do I have the paper screen? I don't. I've been using this like super like cheap version of the paper screen, and I really like it, but I actually bought a proper screen protector and had Geek Squad install it. This is the first time I've ever used Geek Squad in my entire life, so I actually finally had them do it. So, I mean, if I could show you on the camera how like poorly this is set up, like, oh man, it's just terrible. How long have you been drawing with iPads? Okay, so I got my iPad in October, I believe. I think it was October 1st. Actually, I was over at my aunt's house, and it was just sort of a spur of the moment thing. I realized I really wanted to be drawing again, and with kind of the push of my cousin and my aunt and uncle, I was like, yeah, you should be doing this. Like, pursue your art and pursue your craft and just get better at it with time. And so I did. That's basically what I did. But I will say I have been drawing and photo editing. That's my main profession is photography. I've been doing that for many years. Professionally, I've been doing it for 3 years, closer to 5 years. But I previously had this Wacom tablet, which is like super tiny, that I use with Photoshop, and that was like my main way of doing digital art, but I will admit it was really hard to do, so I kind of went away from it just because it was difficult to keep myself motivated because I didn't really have the right tools, if that makes sense. So did I start watching drawing tutorials? Or yes, I do have several recommendations, and if you're on Twitter, I will post them for you if you like. I have several Twitters. Oh man, if Ely is still on here, who's that guy? I can't remember his name. She just told me about him yesterday. But there's a couple of just drawing in general tutorials that I followed when I first started drawing again in October. That really helped me. One of the weirdest things they said was draw a bunch of circles over and over again. Like, just keep drawing shapes. So there's like a whole section of my sketchbook that's just circles and triangles and like squares, and it looks like I went insane and like started like Joker drawing all over my sketchbook. But for some reason that kind of helped my arm movement, like my hand position, I guess. I really don't know what it did, but it helped me get kind of a better grasp on drawing. I don't know. But yeah, I do have some other recommendations. I would say just get on YouTube and Google what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do character art, look at character art tutorials. Like, there's a bunch of them out there and they're all good. I mean, I've taken something from every tutorial I've ever watched, but there's a couple of people that I really like. So okay, yeah, paper screen. Yeah, I really want to get one of those, but I'm gonna try it with that. Yeah, Ethan Becker, that's the guy. Yes, thank you. Yes, Ethan Becker is a great. Oh, my iPad's like going to sleep. He's got a bunch of stuff, and he always talks about like use like triangles. I think that was his thing. Like, do triangles for like the arm. So like I always started picturing like, oh, here's the triangle for this arm, like, oh, here's the triangle for this arm, oh, here's the triangle for this arm, and then like once you start kind of thinking about it, it's like, oh, that's cool, you know. And it's just sometimes it's just mind games figuring it out. So yes, okay, so that's the last question I see. So are you guys good for me to keep going, or do you have any more questions? Yes, Ethan is amazing. He's got a bunch of good stuff. Ethan Becker, if y'all missed that, on YouTube. He's got a bunch of good drawings. And a bunch of good tips and tricks. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. The next section is sort of, it's a little bit more based in my own preference, so keep that in mind. There's a bunch of stuff that you guys can do, but I'm gonna turn this off, and I'm going to go over brushes now. This is probably the most commonly asked question is, what brush do you use, or did you buy a brush package, or what is your favorite brush? What is the brush that you use to do that light thingy that you do? And I will tell you how to do that. My favorite pen in the entire brush library, which is a stock brush, is the technical pen. You can find that under the inking category, and the technical pen is right here. I have created some renditions of the technical pen. That's one is thinner and one's a fatter brush. But basically, this one right here is how you work. That's one of my favorites. Now, what I wanted to cover that is sort of not really intuitive. Obviously, like, you can pick these brushes and be like, oh, I'm gonna try that one. Oh, I'm gonna try this one. Oh, how do I like this one? But basically, what I wanted to say is, when you want to edit a brush, this is gonna sound kind of weird. You go in here and you swipe to the left, and you can. Oh no, I'm sorry. How do you do this? Oh, you just tap it. Yeah, when you tap the brush, I think I'm tapping it in the top right corner. Yeah, you get into this brush studio menu, and if you're on TikTok, you've probably seen people like, this is how I create my brush. And like, you can see what settings they change it all to and everything. But basically, the only setting that I really change is this streamline setting, which is super helpful if you have a jittery hand, or if you're just trying to get that really, really smooth line. Basically, I'll show you what it looks like without the streamline, like really super low. You can get like, really jittery, and like it takes like a lot longer to like get the straight line. You see, like, I'm really trying to, like, this is one of the things I've been trying to get better at, is just perfecting the straight line thing. But to be honest with you, it really helps to have a helping hand. So if you turn the streamline all the way up, all of a sudden you see how much easier it is to get that straight line. Obviously, some people would say, like, oh, you're cheating, you're just turning on like a helper tool. I'm like, it's there for a reason, just do what you need to do. So I would say, definitely, if you have a jittery hand and you really want to draw but you just have a hard time, turn up the streamline on any of these brushes, and you can see, oh, here you go, like, there it is. You can see there is a slight delay when you have it all the way up, so keep that in mind. But it's much easier to get that smooth line. So that's kind of what I wanted to say on that. Another one of my favorite pens is the Studio Pen. So if you remember what I was saying earlier about the color fill, when you use the technical pen, or sort of like a fluffier pen, let's actually use an airbrush pen. You can kind of see, like, oh, there's this sort of feathered edge, it's like blurry edge almost. When you try to fill that in, it leaves this, like, why is that there? It's supposed to fill it in. The software doesn't quite know how to get it all the way. So basically, when you're trying to fill in, like, oh, you have clothes or hair or something, the best pen that I use to color with is the Studio Pen, because it has a very smooth, motion, but it also doesn't have any smoothness to the edge. It just, you know, there it is, and it fills in, even if you, like, there's the tiniest bit of, you know, lines, but basically it fills it in super easy, and there it is. So, do I have a donation link? Yes, if you would like to give me a donation, my coffee in the links, that's a way to give any amount that you prefer to just sort of support, but by no means, this is all stuff that I would love to just share with you guys anyway. Only if you feel financially driven to help, that's the link. I also have a Patreon that I just started that has 3 different tiers. A bunch of videos like this where we go behind the scenes of specific drawings that I've done, and sketches and works in progress, so if you want to check that out too, that's good. So anyway, little side note for Lachlan there. So those are 2 of my favorite brushes, the technical pen and the studio pen. Now everybody wants to know, how do I get that like glowy effect? And that pen is under the luminance category. If you go down all the way 4th to the bottom, there's this luminance tab, and you guys are gonna start seeing this brush like used all over my art now, because this is how I get those lighting effects without having to like work too hard at it. I mean, obviously I could spend the time and like, let's draw, you know, realistic sky and like whatever, but most of the time I kind of just use this and say, hey, you know what, we're gonna have a little sun over here, and boom, there it is, and you can kind of change the blending mode, and like, ooh, now you guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that's where my style kind of originated from, is this luminance tab. I was so obsessed with it when I first found out. But my favorite thing is the light pen. And this is how I get that super nice glowy edge, you know, like, woo. And you can use it to do like hair wispies, and that's like my favorite thing. Or if you're like doing an eye, you can do like the little eye reflections and stuff like that. And that's one of my favorite things, is to kind of like play around with the colors and like see what the light pen looks like with the colors. And it's just one of the best pens ever, and it's a native pen, and honestly, like, you don't need to buy anything to make Procreate work nicely. It'll just, most of these, you know, stock pens are, they'll get the job done. Another one that I really like as a photographer is this bokeh pen, which like gives like these like really fun like flares. I swear, I spent like an entire afternoon just playing with these pens like all day and being like, oh my gosh, I really love, you know, this color now, like, ooh, and that's like how I figured out half this stuff, and it's just so much fun. And again, if you want it to be like wispier or more streamlined, you change the streamline option. I honestly haven't tried any of these. Ooh, look at that. Oh, I haven't played with that. Did I just create glitter? Oh my god! I don't even know what I did! I just created glitter, guys! What the heck? Okay, I gotta figure out what I did. I think it was the jitter. Yeah, it was the jitter. I turned that all the way down. Streamline. Okay, gotta duplicate this brush right away. Change this to glitter. Oh my gosh. That is amazing. This is just the best part of this. This is just the best part of this app. Woo! It's glitter! My husband's over here saying this is the most girly thing ever. You know what? It's fun, okay? We're having a grand old time. Oh my gosh. I am just freaking out right now. Yeah, expect glitter on my next couple of drawings, guys. That's just how it's gonna be. Oh man. Oh yeah, men with glitter. Yeah, can you guys imagine Atsumu with a bunch of glitter on his face? Like, come on. My brain is bursting right now. Sakuatsu glitter. They're just gonna roll around in the glitter. Okay. I'll clear this. I'll turn the pen off. Ooh. I'm gonna actually name this. I'm gonna name this pen the glitter pen. Oh boy. This is amazing. I am so happy I figured this out. Now I see this is just goes to show, play with the different options. You don't know what you're gonna figure out. Now I'm like wondering like what else can I do? Okay, that's spacing. Fall off. Okay, I know what fall off is, but glitter. Wow, amazing. Okay. All right. Anyway, that is basically what those are my 3 favorite pens. Now, she enters the glitter arc. Yes.
Have you ever seen MS Paint spray paint?
Oh, MS Paint spray paint. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
Oh, we're not trying to do like YouTube poop level drawings. Okay. The second thing I wanted to talk about. Oh my gosh, Denki Kaminari with glitter freckles. Absolutely. Where is Pyro? Pyro needs to be here so she can witness Denki. He's from My Hero. He's not on my shirt though. I wish he was on my shirt. I only got these guys on my shirt. Okay. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about how to get new brushes, because that is also a commonly asked question. It's not as hard as you think, and I'm gonna do that, and then I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna pause for like 2 minutes. But I wanted to go over how to get new brushes before we move on to talking about layers. So as you probably noticed, if you have the stock app, I have 4 additional brushes on the top, which are these Jing Soft Smudge Sketch and Paint. This artist that I follow on Instagram created a whole bundle of beautiful brushes, and she put them for sale, and I think I paid maybe like $5 to $10 for the whole package. To be honest with you, I think I only use like 2 or 3 of the brushes, but just the fact that there are so many on here it's beautiful. Like, she did a great job. If you're an artist like me, you probably got the ad for it too, honestly. But basically, all you need to do is click on whatever, bundle of brushes. Like, sometimes there's free ones, you can just Google it, or sometimes you have to purchase it. Be aware of what you're purchasing, just in general. Don't buy like spam stuff. I can send you guys the link to this girl's brushes as well if you want the same ones as me. But you guys probably noticed the shift in my art, kind of to a more softer sort of. I need to change to this brush. Oh, I'm on ad. I'm sorry. Ignore all this. You guys probably noticed the shift in my art to a more like softer, more like subtle line art instead of my thick line art that I was doing. And that is just because of this thin render solid brush that I have deemed my new favorite brush. Oh, bye Zoe! Thank you so much for coming! I hope you sleep well. I also, Lachlan, if you're still at work, don't be a slacker, okay? Do your work. Just have me on in the background. Anyway, so that's something that I really enjoy about Procreate, Clip Studio. Photoshop's a little bit difficult, but you could buy brushes and create brushes. Up here in the top right is a plus button. You can literally create brushes from anything. You pick your shape, change your shape source to, something like, this is their source library that Procreate comes with. A lot of people don't know about this, but basically here's the bokeh effect. And you can go ahead and like, okay, I'm gonna change the brush to be, I don't know. I'm just playing with this stuff. Let's see, size, scatter. That looks pretty cool. And basically you can kind of sort of figure out like, oh, I like this brush. A lot of people like create like snow brushes that looks like, I don't really know, there's a bunch of options you can use. I'll stop playing with this now. But basically you can go in and buy brushes, add brushes. But what you want to do is go to the link, get the download, and it will most likely be an actual zip file, and it'll come with these if I go to files, it'll be these I'm sorry, this is gonna be so hectic on my files. Don't look at my files, they're so disorganized. But basically you go in here and you go on my iPad and like Procreate, and then you just sort of open the zip, open this, and then there's a bunch of I think there's brushes here, and you just kind of click on it and it imports it. I don't actually know what I just imported. Oh, look at that. I imported a lens flare. I didn't know I purchased a lens. Ooh, a lens flare. Okay. Oh, all right. Neat. I didn't realize I even had that, but basically that's how you do it. You open the zip file, you'll see something like this. It might actually look on your iPad like the Procreate symbol, and you just click on it, and then it will most likely add into that. It'll open with Procreate automatically. If you're buying something on your phone, use AirDrop to drop it over to your iPad. You can do the same thing with Mac. I honestly don't know how to get it to your iPad other than either using AirDrop or using a cloud service like iCloud or Google Drive. Those are the ones I use all the time. You might be able to use a cable to get it from your computer, but I'm not too sure about that, so don't hold me to that. But basically, that's kind of how you can use Procreate to add new brushes if you would like. So, okay. I am going to take a break to go to the restroom, and I'll leave the music playing, and you guys can kind of talk amongst yourselves. I will be right back. Oh, I'm gonna leave this on for. I have TikTok live going right now, so I'm gonna leave this so if anybody joins, I'll have a little thing. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, I am back. I am back. Did you guys see the dog? What? Did you mess with my camera? Okay. It needs 100% more of Lance dancing with Stella. Did you dance with Stella? That's awesome. Oh boy. Okay. Alright. Now that I have kind of totally, like, done so much, do you guys have any questions? Anything that I've said so far that is like, whoa, you went over that way too fast, or like, your freak out about glitter totally distracted me, I forgot everything you said. Go ahead and ask. Ask away. Also, this link to this this playlist on Spotify is like so good. I'm actually gonna share it because I'm like jamming. Did I finish the bottomy? No, I did not. It's been sitting on my iPad for so long. It has 6 people in it, okay? I have to get all their faces right. Drawing faces is like the hardest thing in the world for me. Oh my gosh. Anyway. Any other questions? Which layer blend setting is your favorite? I am going to tell you. Okay. The layers, the layer blending modes. Oh, I love it so much. I actually have 3. I have 3 favorites, but I use a bunch. And honestly, when it comes to doing the blending modes for the layers, it is like, whoa. You can do anything you want as long as you like what it looks like. Will you do the cover art for our demo? Absolutely. I've like never drawn anything like from scratch. I've always had like a character in mind or something. So like I'll have to go like, I don't know, from some like vibe and figure it out. But yeah, absolutely. Any other questions before I jump into the layers? This video is going to be so long. How long have I been live? 47 minutes. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay. How often will you stream? I actually don't know. If you guys are liking this thing, I will maybe do a weekly stream where we can chat about new things that we're learning, or y'all can just watch me draw. I know Lachlan like watched me draw for like an hour the other day when I was doing my test stream, and I hope it was interesting. We just sort of chatted about Haikyuu and talked about Aaron and Kita from Haikyuu and how much we love them, and you know, what got us into art, different things like that. Yeah, me and Lachlan just having a party over here, just the 2 of us. It was good, so we are gonna need more glitter for that, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. So now that I am here, I'm gonna clear this layer out. So obviously, you can see from my little thing here, I have many layers open, and this is something that a lot of artists will tell you. Use multiple layers, like use a layer for your sketch and then use another layer for your line art on top of that, you know, and then remove the sketch when you're done, and then add layers for coloring, layers for highlights, layers for shadows. Like literally I use a layer for almost every different piece, and you can kind of see that here. I don't label my layers, I probably should, but there are mostly 3 different types of layers. There's like a regular layer, there's a clipping layer, and then there's what that's called a layer mask. Sometimes that goes on top of it, sometimes it goes to the side of it, but I will go over that. So basically, I do like to live a life of chaos. Most of the time I'm just like clicking them on and off. I'm like, what does this layer do? It's probably not the best way to do that, but basically, like, I have, like, oh, here's my first sketch, and, like, oh, it's, like, okay, it looks alright. You can see it's very messy. I erased a bunch of stuff, and then, like, oh, okay, I improved it. Here's my next layer, and then, like, oh, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the line art, and there you go, there's the line art, and you're ready for coloring. But basically, once you kind of figure out your sort of workflow, you can kind of play with it, see what you like, and that's kind of the best way I would suggest to do it. There are artists that like to do everything on one layer and then sort of put their layer masks and adjustment layers on top of it. An adjustment layer that's sort of a Photoshop term that people use to talk about when they're editing the layer as a whole rather than just like drawing a little bit. Anyway, that's sort of a side note. What I'm going to kind of show you is the difference between two layers. The regular base layer is what I'm kind of showing you here, where you can kind of, it's just by itself, this layer 3 right here. It's sort of like, this is it, you know, you can turn it on, off. And then what I like to do is do a coloring layer, which I'm going to turn this on and it's going to look really chaotic, but basically once you turn it on, I have about 7 clipping layers on top of it, and you can kind of see this was the base layer. It's just color. You can kind of see I did a little bit of smudging on the eye, but basically that's all it is. You know, it's just one flat color, and then I used a bunch of clipping masks on top of it to add in the shading or add in the coloring, things like that. So I sort of start with, like, I don't know if you can kind of see the difference, but I start with like, oh, he's got a little bit of red, you know, different places on his skin. And then there's some more red, there's some shading, there's some more shading. Okay, now we're getting to highlights. There's some third highlights, and that's kind of how I do my skin. But that's basically what I'm showing you there. This is what a clipping mask is. Now, if I say I want to take the clipping mask layer off, and all I did to do that, by the way, is just click on the actual square right next to layer 6. It's the like, you do that. I don't know how to show you without like a little cursor thing. If I turn the clipping mask off, you can see already that the brush kind of goes past where it's supposed to be. It's like you see this right here, this section right here. That, if I turn the clipping mask back on, and now I have to go do it for every single one of them. Yeah, I think that was the one. I turn that off, and you can see that the clipping layer basically just puts it only on the layer that it's clipping. That's like the worst way to explain it, but you see how there's this little arrow? The clipping layer will basically only draw on what the actual base layer is. So let's kind of use this as an example. If I do on this base layer, I'm going to draw a little circle. I'm going to fill it in. And then on this clipping layer mask, I want to put a little highlight on it. I'm going to start by drawing here, but oh wait, you know, my pen is going past the circle, but the color stays only on what is on the base layer. You see? Does that make sense? So if you're doing shading, having a clipping layer is like super nice, because all of a sudden you can kind of color without worrying about staying in the lines. Obviously you can do all this stuff without clipping masks, but oh my gosh, it makes it so much easier. So once I go ahead and delete the base layer, all of a sudden it goes away on the clipping layer as well, even though you still see it up here in that little preview window. And as soon as I start painting something again, oh, there's all the clipping layer again. that's just kind of how that works. I hope that makes sense. That's one thing that I use to sort of, it doesn't like matter that much, but it does make it easier on you after a while. So I'm gonna delete this, and then I'm gonna add these back as clipping layers, and you can kind of see as I go, it stops. You see how that one, as soon as I deleted it, it went away. It only got to where the base layer is. So that is what clipping masks are. Now, when we're talking about layer masks, I always got this confused for so long. There's clipping layers and then there's layer mask. A layer mask is, you can kind of go on here and click mask, and it creates this like white version, like this like little white square on the top of it. I'm gonna sort of try to explain this using non-photography terms, but a layer mask will sort of protect the layer to where you can make adjustments to the layer without actually changing it at all. So when you want to do something, and this is going to be a bad example, so I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna make a layer mask to this one. Let's say I want to add some shading directly onto, or I want to like, let's say this. Let's say I want to make him kind of like ghostly, and I want him to be transparent. That's a good example. What you would do is have the layer mask selected, choose a dark brush, maybe even black. Black will erase it completely. But so if we like choose like a gray and then choose like an airbrush effect, I'm gonna turn on the background so you can kind of see. As soon as I start drawing, and keep in mind I'm not on the layer, I'm on the layer mask. You see the difference? That's the layer mask. Once I start drawing, you can kind of see like, oh, all of a sudden he's sort of getting transparent. It looks like he's just sort of fading. But if I draw something underneath him, like I'm gonna do an arrow. Ooh, now you can see he's see-through. So the layer mask will basically, I don't want to say delete, but it will delete the layer without actually deleting it. So I hope that makes sense. And you can turn that off and see, oh, now he's not transparent. Oh, now he's like a ghost. So that's just sort of an example of a layer mask. I use layer masks and clipping masks in every single drawing that I do. And I'll show you a very common technique that I use when we get to effects. But basically, that's kind of that. Actually, I'm going to undo this until I get rid of that arrow. So there goes. I'm going to delete the clipping mask. And this is where we're at with our drawing right now. Basically, you can use clipping masks to, okay, I only want to do something to the hair. So then you make a new layer, go to clipping mask, and then all of a sudden, oh, I can do little hair sparkles that will only be on the hair, you know, like, ooh, you know, how they do the like reflections. Now it's only on the hair. I don't know, that just seems like that seems like one of the most like cool things to me. It just makes it so much easier. And then you didn't actually change your base layer, so you're like, I hate that color. You can just delete it and start over. You know, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do a teal version now, or a green version. Like, ooh, now there you go. See what I mean? So that is what a clipping layer is. Now the next thing about layers is I actually don't remember what I was going to say. I think I was going to talk about colors next, but I'm not sure how much you guys need help with colors. Honestly, it's just you have different options. There's the little disc thing that you can see the little preview up here. I personally don't like using this option because I like seeing the RGB value, the saturation value, and then the light the lightness value separately. So if I'm like, oh, I really like this color, but it's too bright, I can just bring it down. Or, oh, this is too green, I need it to be more blue. You see what I mean? You can kind of change it like that. I like using the classic version, but then there's the harmony version, which is you can select this is sort of like color theory. You can select a color, and then this other color will sort of give you a complementary color. I haven't played with this too much, but it will kind of, you see how it like just sort of goes around like it. And I believe you can change it to the different, the different versions of color theory up here. When you click on triadic, do complementary, split complementary, there it is. You can kind of switch between the main complementary colors, and then obviously change the lightness value. That's pretty cool. I might actually try playing with that a little bit. This goes in deeper into the RGB hue, saturation, and brightness level as well. This is when you're getting really technical with color theory. I don't think it's necessary. It might just confuse you. I mean, if you want to make it more green, if you want to make it more red, you can kind of play. That's what RGB stands for: red, green, blue, hue, saturation, brightness. And again, you can kind of play with it. You'll always see, this is so annoying. Okay, I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to like, there you can kind of see, but this just sort of changes the values anyway. I mean, I don't know, whatever you decide. And then there's palettes that you can choose and create. I have a palette for my main OC's hair color. You can kind of do that, but anyway, I feel like I'm like getting really boring, so I'm gonna stop and ask questions. I see Lachlan asked me, what is the most fun part of drawing? That's a good question. I would say my favorite part of drawing is the idea, like coming up with an idea for a piece. Most of the time it's either I read a good fan fiction or I really like a character. Like this specific piece is sort of coming together because I just started watching Bungo Stray Dogs, which Dazai is one of the main characters, and I think he's just the most amazing character in existence. Like, how could you not like him? He's hilarious. He's so weird. If you haven't seen that anime, I highly suggest you watch it. I'm only on episode 6 and I'm already recommending it, so that's tells you how much I like it. How long do I usually spend on a piece? That is a good question. So I will show you, and this is one of the tips you can use for a finished piece. So when you're looking at a finished piece, this is my Todoroki Bakugo 1. You guys probably saw it on Instagram or Twitter. And basically what you can do to track your time is in the settings menu. If you go over to video, you could probably look at it in the canvas information, which is under canvas information. You can at least see when you started it. So I started this one on March 10th at 6 o'clock. I don't know if you want to do it like that, but basically what I do, I love this time-lapse replay thing. And I do it for every single drawing. It defaults to do it on, so if you've done pieces already, it probably had it on. And you can go through and see like, oh, there's the reference images, there's the sketch, and you can kind of use your finger as a slider, you know, like, oh, there it goes. And you can kind of see like, oh, that's how it came together. But basically, there's a timestamp in the very top. So 4 hours and 30 minutes for this drawing. I would say this is a longer piece for me. Some of my earlier pieces, it took me 1 to 2 hours. These more detailed pieces that I'm doing lately have been closer to 3 or 4 hours. Like this Todoroki one probably took closer to, I don't know, let's see. Yeah, this was about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that kind of goes to show that. What else? What other questions do you guys have? Sure, no problem. And don't get me wrong, each piece is gonna vary, you know, like with difficulty and how much time and energy you want to put into the background, you know, how detailed do you want the face to be. Are you doing kind of like crazy things with the coloring or with the like for me, I always spend a lot of the time on the hair, you know, like I end up getting way too detailed with hair, I feel like sometimes. So it just depends. Some are faster, some are slower, you know. And there's no right or wrong answer. Like, just edit the way you want to edit, and then the picture will come out the way you like it. So, do I plan on making an Aaron Kita piece? Yeah, I have a really good idea for one. Basically, this is sort of a not safe for work concept, but doing, you guys have probably seen my rope work pieces, doing one where Kita's sort of like in a meditative like mode, and Aaron is the rigger, so I don't know if you guys have seen that, my Kuroken one, but I was thinking something similar with that, but I don't know. I have been sort of diving away from not safe for work stuff lately and doing just more subtly, I don't know what the right word is. I knew you were gonna ask me about Aaron Kita. How long did we talk about Aaron Kita last time? That's good stuff. I love Kita as a character, so it's a shame that he's only made an appearance in one of my drawings, so. Allie says, no questions at the moment. This has been super helpful. Thank you so much. Layers are a bit confusing, but I feel confident about it now. Okay, good. Yeah, layers are really weird, and like, it just takes some practice to get used to it. My advice is just make a new layer, and then something that you can do is try like just try playing with the clipping mask option. Like obviously there's a bunch of these options. I still don't know what alpha lock means. I have played with that so many different times. I've looked up tutorials. I can't figure out what it does. So like honestly just Google things and like play with it and see about how it you know works with the other layers. Like you never know, it might totally change how you draw. Honestly, that's half of my process is figuring out just like plain stuff. Do I have any tips for the dramatic lighting that I do? Because I struggle hardcore with it. Absolutely. Yes, I am going to get to that when we talk about blending modes, and I know my cousin is probably bored of me. She's like, I asked you about blending modes, like, tell me. But basically, there's a couple of things that I do to sort of get that glowy effect and very dramatic things. And this is all coming from my photography side because my photo work was very, very heavily based in lighting methods and how that affects the photo and the subject in the photo. So that's kind of why I sort of delved really hard right off the bat into those sort of really dramatic designs and such. So yeah, absolutely. We can talk about that in just a little bit. I struggle a lot with perspective. Do you have any tips or plan on talking about it in future streams? I struggle with perspective too. You are not alone. I think that's one of the hardest things for most artists to deal with. I will tell you, there is a solution in Procreate, and I can kind of give you a little bit I can kind of give you a little bit of a tip, but basically when you go to under the settings icon under canvas, there is a thing called drawing guide, and right off the bat it kind of shows you this little like, oh, there's like, oh, now there's little lines you can follow to get your square correct, but that doesn't really help you with perspective. I mean, like if I wanted to create like a little hallway like that, I don't know, it doesn't help very much. So what you can do is under that same menu you can edit your drawing guide, and there are a bunch of options. There's 2D grid, there's isometric, and then there's perspective, and you can kind of it says the first thing you need to do is tap to create a vanishing point, and that's when in perspective there's something that everything points to. So if you're looking at a street, the road you're looking at goes straight until it converges. That's what the vanishing point is. So all of the buildings, you know, they're really tall and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller until they hit that vanishing point. So basically you just tap, and this is like a terrible, let me pick a better color. I tapped and you can see, there's the horizon, there's the vanishing point. It kind of helps sometimes, and you can kind of sort of create like different, like if there are two vanishing points. This is getting really heavy into some actual art theory stuff, and I took one class on it and I swear it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But if you get into double vanishing points, things like that, it can kind of help. But basically, I do believe there are methods in here to kind of show you. I know there's another way of adding a different point. So if I add, I don't even know. There's a bunch of ways you could play with it. I would suggest asking a tutorial. Okay, Lachlan, yeah, don't worry. Go do your whatever you need to do. We'll probably be wrapping up here pretty soon. The last thing I wanted to talk about is like my art style specific stuff, but this video will also be on YouTube. So if you missed the last part, don't worry about it. You can go back and watch it later. Anyway, Allie, who asked about that? Tater Tots. Yes. I would suggest Googling some tutorials on perspective, because I am not an expert on perspective at all, and I still struggle with it way hard. So that's kind of something you can use. I know there's a girl on TikTok that did a tutorial on how to use the perspective tool in Procreate, so maybe if I can find that again, I will send it to you. I don't know if I can find that again though, so I mean, you know how TikTok is. It's just a dumping ground of videos. Allie says, honestly, still shook about the double tap pen thing. Yeah, I do it all the time. Oh my gosh, like when you start double tapping, and then if I'm like doing the 2-finger tap to go back and forth, it will double tap my pen by accident. Oh man. Yes, Lachlan, do you know what alpha lock is? Please explain it to me. I have seen so many people on TikTok being like, you have to put the alpha lock on, and I'm like, I don't know what that changes. I have no idea what it is, but I know it does something. I don't know. Let's play with it. Let's see. Okay, we have the hair layer on. Alpha lock. No, wait. Do we have to turn the alpha lock on the actual layer? I don't know. This is where I'm like not an expert in this app at all. I just know the stuff that I use every day. Oh boy. Okay. Ely says it means the opacity of the layer doesn't change. Oh. It's like using a clipping mask, but with what you already have. I see. So like if I turn this on, alpha lock, and then like I want to draw something blue on top of it. Wait, I'm on the eraser. Whoops. Wait, I don't see what it does. Oh, I see. So the clipping layer is on that actual... so you turn alpha lock on, and then you can't color outside of this, just what's inside the alpha locked section. But see, I still wouldn't recommend that because you're actually changing the base layer. You see what I mean? Doing a clipping mask, you can do that, and then if you're like 10 steps down the line, you're like, oh wait, I forget, I don't like this blue color, I want to delete that and start over. If you draw something and then turn the alpha lock, you can edit the layer, but it seems like there's a clipping mask. Yeah, okay. That makes total sense. I kept turning it on and then going to a different layer to try to do something. So I guess, yeah, it wouldn't do anything. That makes sense. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you for the explanation. That's very nice. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about was blending modes, some effects, and some little bit of image editing stuff. I won't go too much into it because I could talk about photography all day, but basically, one thing I wanted to mention is this tool right here. I have not been talking about the adjustments tab at all because I'm trying to save it all for one section. If you go to I have used every single one of these options in probably not every drawing I've done, but at least once in my life have I used a bunch of these. So hue, saturation, brightness, that's exactly what it sounds like. You can change the coloring of a layer. So let's say, hey, I see this like brownish background, this thing. I don't like that color, like what is it? But I've already feathered it, so if I try to recolor it, it's just gonna look weird. So I need to change the color somehow. I'm gonna go over to the hue, saturation, brightness. I'm gonna use the layer option. You can use the pencil option, which you have to color it in. But I'm gonna do the layer option. I'm gonna change it to like a bluish color. Maybe over, yeah, bluish, maybe purplish. Turn the saturation down a little bit, maybe the brightness down to make it a little bit more dramatic. And then that's like, oh, that looks so much better. It's not so brown anymore. Like, I don't know, going back and forth, like, ugh, that just looks no good to me. So, okay, we've got that. That's good stuff. Now, something that you can do with any drawing is what's called blending mode, and you see this little N next to the check mark. Like, here's the check mark to turn it on and off. Then there's this N. If you tap on it, you can see these are what's called a blending mode. And I believe Procreate has all of the exact same blending modes that Photoshop, Clip Studio has. But basically, you can change the blending mode to affect your drawing in a certain way. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new layer, and this goes back to I think, yeah, Kitsuna was asking me about dramatic lighting. This is one of the things that I do to kind of do that. I will create a new layer, I'll fill it with color. So like that, and then you go in here, obviously like this doesn't do anything, but as soon as you change the blending mode, it's like, ooh, it changes the whole drawing to blend this color on top of the layer in a specific way. So here we can see like, oh, these look kind of weird. These don't really do anything but change the coloring. What I like to do is go to multiply, change the opacity, and then use the eraser or a layer mask and being like, okay, I'm gonna like erase a little bit of this to kind of like give it some dramatic tension, you know. Ooh, yeah. Ah! Okay, go, Lachlan. Yes, goodbye. I'll see you on Twitter. Thanks for coming. I know this is a long one. This is mainly for just for drawing tips, but I made it super long. I probably should have trimmed it down or made it 2 parts or something. But yeah, basically that's one of the things that I do. The other thing that I do is for highlights and for shadows, I use the add mode, the add blending mode, and the multiply blending mode a whole lot. So you can kind of see this layer, this one right here, layer 9 is a multiply, layer 7's multiply, layer 8's multiply. If I change this to like normal, well actually let's use this one. If I change this to normal, it's like, what the heck? It doesn't look any different from like plain. But all of a sudden when I put it to multiply, then it's like, ooh, it adds like a subtle, nice effect to it. So multiply is really nice for shadows. Sometimes I do darker color, or sometimes I do linear burn or color burn for that final kind of effect, but multiply is usually what I go with. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It usually, I think what it's called is it multiplies the RGB values of the color that you're using to the color that you're putting it on top of and puts them together. So basically that's kind of where it's at. Add is another thing. You can kind of see when I toggle this on and off, that this base color, I believe, was like a blue. Yeah, like super light blue color. You really can't see it, but as soon as I turn it to add, it gives it this nice kind of subtle effect. This one is probably the one I should have used as an example. You can see on the face that here's the add value. Here's what it was normally. It's kind of like a light purple. But when I turned it to add, it's this kind of more detailed highlights. And I usually like to turn that down just like maybe to like 80%. Oh, not that low. That looks pretty good. And then just kind of go from there. So taking the hair, let's take the hair. I'm gonna create a new layer, clipping mask. I'm gonna add a light purple. I'm gonna use a medium, or let's use a soft brush. What I do is I turn the brush size up pretty high, turn the opacity down pretty low. That's what these sliders are, by the way. This is the size. This is the opacity. So I'll do that, and then the light's coming from this direction, so from the left side. Sorry, I realize you guys can't see my pen. And I'm just gonna kind of brush it on there. So there you go. There's some subtle highlights. We're gonna turn it down later, so don't worry. So right now it's just kind of bluish. I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be an added color. So I'm gonna put that to add. I'm gonna turn down the opacity just so it's like a light glow. And then I'm gonna add another clipping layer on top of it. Same color, put it on add. And then I'm gonna go to my paintbrush, my regular paintbrush. And this is where I do more of my detailed work. It's like, okay, you just kind of get the wispy hair. And obviously, since it's a clipping mask, I can kind of go over the lines and it won't affect the rest of the drawing. It'll just affect the hair layer. So you can kind of see that I'm making these little wispy hairs the bright color as well. So like, there you go. It's like add the wispies. And that's kind of how you can kind of get that. Obviously, I would do that across the whole head. And one thing I've been doing lately is doing a third clipping mask, turning the brush up really high and kind of drawing this sort of pattern on. I know you've probably seen this on a lot of anime, like guys' hair is like a little, and then turn that to add. And that looks pretty jarring right now, but then, you know, if you go on top of it with the eraser and just sort of like subtly chisel away at it, it might end up looking more flowy and more dramatic. I don't like the way that looks right now, but that's kind of what we're going with. On top of that, or below that, you can add a multiply layer to do something similar. So like the other side of his hair should be shaded, so we're gonna put some like really chunky shadows in there. Obviously this is not detailed enough for what I would do for a regular drawing, but you see what I mean. Like little shadows. I hope that makes sense. So that's kind of something I do to get some more dramatic lighting to that, and how we get to the blending modes. But the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is 2 tips and tricks, so Allie, pay attention. The last thing I do on every drawing is I swipe up with 3 fingers to get this little copy paste menu. I copy all my layers and then I paste them into a blank layer, and what you can do is push the settings menu, add, and then paste. And that adds the entire image, all the layers as one image, so you can turn all these layers off and go back and forth, and that's the image. So you can use it like it's a photograph and make changes to it. So something that I like to do is, oh, I always forget this. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to kind of show you something. If I wanted to really make this a little bit more dramatic, obviously I'm being a little bit loose with my fingers here. If I really wanted to do that, one thing you can do is you can pinch both layers together to combine them. So I know you can't see what I'm doing, but to merge the layers, you take the layers, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but you pinch them. So you just, and then they combine into one layer. That's just a side note. It really is helpful. Sometimes the blending modes will kind of affect how you do that, but just keep that in mind. Okay, this is the last part. I'm sorry I'm taking so long to explain all this stuff, but here we go. So something that I do to really affect my photos is the bloom option, the Gaussian blur option, and the chromatic aberration option. So bloom takes your layer and takes the highest, like the closest color to white, and makes it glow. So there we go. You guys, secret revealed. You guys have seen how I make my pictures glow. It's the bloom option. It's so much fun. It's really awesome. If you want to, like, let's say you want to add like a really, like, oh, let's do like green. If you wanted to add like a green on top of it, and then like, okay, I want to make this green like really pop. Go into the bloom option and turn it on. Ooh, there's some green. I actually don't like that at all. I'm gonna clear this and try this again. Let's say you want this. Let's go here. Here we go. Green, 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 green. And then we go to bloom. Sometime, oh yeah, there we go. See how that changes it? All of a sudden, it's like this super beautiful green. I don't know why I went with green, but you can kind of see that it takes the color and burns it to make it bloom. So there's burn. So you can see burn is the how much it goes. The size is how wide the feather will be. So like you see how the size will kind of like change that, and the transition will kind of just do that. It's fun to play with. That's how I get a lot of the glow on some of my pictures. Another thing that I really like to do, and I'm going to show you by just ignore the duplication, but I like to use the chromatic aberration. What chromatic aberration is when you have a lens, as you get away from the focal point, the lens will bend the light into sort of like a prism effect. If you have glasses and you like try to look out the side of your glasses and you see that blue-red shift thing, that's exactly what chromatic aberration is. So usually there's a focal point in the center. You can kind of like put that on the face or whatever you want the subject to be. If it's like, yeah, you put it on the subject that you want it to be, and then slide to turn it on. And with this picture, it's kind of hard to see, but basically you see how it's sort of shifting the lines into these colors. This can give it a really cool, like, super trippy effect. If you have epilepsy, like, maybe don't stare at it too long. But you see how it doesn't really affect, the vanishing point again is right here. If I turned this down away from the face, now he's shifted, into that prism effect. So you can kind of do that. Another version is the displace, which it'll take away the vanishing point and it will separate the entire image into RGB shift. So that can be really cool to play with. I would say play with it to your heart's content and then just sort of adjust it as you go. Obviously, this is too much for a regular drawing. If I was doing a more artistic piece where I'm trying to make a point, I would use this option, but just kind of keep in mind. Something that I like to do with displace, let's get back to normal, is like zoom in really far on like an eye or something, and then just like really subtly. You see how that adds kind of a dramatic effect? You just really subtly turn it on, tap the little thing to close it out, and then like it doesn't really affect the drawing as a whole until you're like, oh, this looks super interesting. Why does it look different? And then you realize there's an RGB shift on it, a chromatic aberration on it. So that's something that I find really interesting. I'm gonna put a little bit more on this so we can give a really good example of the next option. So if you've done any sort of work in Photoshop or Clip Studio, you probably know what Gaussian blur is. That is just blurring the entire image. You turn it on really far and it blurs out everything. But basically this kind of, it'll blur the entire image, and you can use this on any layer. I'm doing it on this kind of finished layer, but basically you can kind of do this. The other version of blur is motion and perspective. Same with the chromatic aberration. When you get to perspective blur, it gives you this vanishing point to where you can put on the face and then turn on the blur, and you see how like, ooh, the hand is just like totally blurred away now. But the face stays pretty not blurred, and it follows, this is so trippy, but it follows wherever this vanishing point is. Something that I've been doing a lot lately is doing a harsh chromatic aberration and a harsh perspective blur, and then what I do is put a layer mask on top of this, and I will basically use my little brush, most of the time a soft brush, to kind of brush all this stuff away. You see how that's how the layer masks work. If I paint with a strong brush, you can see automatically that that's how the layer mask works. I'm painting directly onto the layer mask. You can see that's where my black paint strokes are, and that's what's making the layer delete. You see how without the layer mask, this is the top layer, that's the base layer, and I can kind of go between them, but as soon as I turn the layer mask on, it goes and it kind of deletes this top layer to reveal the clean bottom layer. So what I've been doing is make the mask, use a soft brush, and then just sort of slowly painting it away to give it a subtle glow. You see how it's subtly glowing now? I don't know if you can see that on the actual camera, but basically I turn it away and it doesn't change the way the line art looks. Like, you could still tell where the hair is, but it's got this nice glow to it now. So that's kind of what I like to do as well. You know, just sort of paint away the craziness until it doesn't hurt your eyes anymore, until it's still kind of glowing, but it's not giving you like total whiplash every time you look at it. So those are some things that I like to do. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the histogram and the liquify tools. So let's say you get to the final image and you're looking at it and you're like, dude, this bro's eyes look so dumb. Why are they so slanted? What the heck did I do? You can go in here, go to liquify, and you can basically, this is a common Photoshop technique where you know, they slim down the models and they plump up the hair. You can use it to subtly change, keyword subtly, your photo. So like, if I turn this off and I go before, look how much different that is. Obviously I didn't do a good job. Like, I still think it looks kind of weird. Looks pretty good right here. But let's say you have like a glaring error where like, oh, this forearm is way too thin, or like it's way too thick. I can put this out and pull it just like a little bit. You see what I mean? And you can just subtly change it to where the anatomy is more correct. You see what I mean? Or like, oh, his back is arching just a little bit too much, just a little bit too thin. And then you can see, oh, I made him more accurate. That's something that I've just now recently figured out how to do. So I would suggest, after you're done with all your layers, do the 3-finger swipe up, copy all, and then paste into a new layer so you have this final image that you can adjust without touching your other layers. Because you don't want to be liquefying, like, oh, I gotta liquefy my line art, and then I gotta liquefy my coloring, and then all this stuff. You can just do it on your last image. And it's kind of nice to be able to see, if your adjustments are like really whack, you can kind of go backwards and say, okay, I'm scrapping these, starting again. I have done that many times. The last thing that I like to touch on is the color balance and the curves. I know we talked about hue, saturation, brightness, but let's say, hey, I think this looks a little bit too purple. Let's take the blue away and the cyan away. And let's make it a little bit better. This is obviously, like, I think the coloring is fine on this. I like the purple. But you can see that you can change the coloring subtly. And I'll touch on this this is the last thing. I really like this section. But a lot of people don't really care too much about this part. But the curves. There's a common photo editing technique that's called crushing your colors. And basically what you do is this looks really complicated, and I'm sorry, but basically there's the gamma layer and then the RGB layers. But the gamma layer is everything, so you can adjust the colors as a whole, bring them up to make them brighter, bring them down to make them darker, and the histogram basically from left to right. The left, this side, is the shadows. This side is the highlights. So the very brightest part is going to be right here. The very darkest parts are going to be right here. The way to crush your colors is to bring it to where it cuts off. You see how it just completely cuts off the colors. So you can't have anything darker than that. You can't have anything brighter than that. And what you can do is bring it down and bring this up, and it sort of adds this sort of effect. And then you give it a little bit of an S curve by adding a point on the left side and a point on the right side, and having them kind of in the last quadrants. I know it's sort of weird to it doesn't look like I changed anything, but as soon as you start looking at the difference, that's the image before, here's the image after. It gives it sort of like a vintagey look, a more like a more filtered look. Most of the filters on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter have this sort of colored, crushed thing. And you can do that with any color. So if I wanted to crush the red color, the same difference, you bring that over here, kind of do this, and then all of a sudden your red layer looks different, and then your blue layer can look different. And you can kind of crush the blue layer to where, oh, there's only going to be green and red showing now. You see what I mean? It's super fun to kind of play with this. It can totally change the dynamic of your piece. It is a little easy to go overboard with it, but I think it's super fun. Anyway, that is the last part that I have for you guys. Is there any questions? I know those last parts are super detailed, super intense, probably way too much actual photo editing stuff than you guys were prepared for. I know I haven't talked a whole lot about drawing, because I personally don't think I'm the best drawer. I think of myself more as a photo editor, and doing stuff like that is a little bit easier for me. But if you're wanting tutorials for actual drawing, I'm so happy to look some up for you. I know there have been a couple that have really helped me out, so just send me a DM and tell me what you're thinking about. I'm glad I'm helping you, Allie. I know this is super intense, and I've kind of gone so crazy on some of this stuff. My voice is gonna be so hoarse tomorrow. It's worth it. Worth it. I need to drink water. Does anybody else have any questions? I should probably look on TikTok to see if I have anybody. Hi, TikTok friends. Hello. I don't know how many people are actually on here. It says a lot of people have joined, but I can't tell if they've left. Soonest posture. Hello. Hello. We are literally on Twitch. So, I don't know how to change my filter. Anyway, hope you guys are doing great. Let's look. No questions, obsessed. I love it though. I'm glad you guys are having a good time. I don't even know how many people are still on Twitch. Oh, it looks like we've got quite a few people. TikTok people, do you guys have any questions? Oh, thank you for the present. I didn't know I could get presents on TikTok. Soon as Posture sent me a present. Thank you so much. YY Ghosts, hello. Yeah, this looks terrible on TikTok on my phone. This is just this is just my drawing. I've been doodling up in here on here's my green little let's do a bloom thing again. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, burn it. There we go. So, for everybody who's on TikTok, I learned about glitter today. I did not realize that under the luminance tab, if you change the scatter point on the light pen, it turns it into glitter. And I'm like so obsessed with it now. I am literally gonna use this all the time. Look at the glitter. I'm giving Dazai some epic glitter. Let's change the blending mode over to add. Ooh, color dodge looks better. Ooh, yeah, that looks good. Thank you, Tater Tots. I'm glad it was helpful. Do you have any more questions? I know I think I sort of sped through your question earlier. For everybody on TikTok, just FYI, I will be posting this whole tutorial thing on YouTube later, so I will make sure to post a link. Great, I'm glad I answered everything. This is awesome. I don't really know how to wrap this up. If you guys don't have any more questions, I suppose I will end the stream here. Next stream, I think I'm most likely going to be talking about... Oh, I had a topic in mind, but I like totally have forgotten it now. I will most likely think of it again and post it on Twitter or something. One last question. Can you showed how you pulled up the reference photo earlier? Yes. So, okay. So, under the settings menu on Canvas, there's this reference option you can toggle on and off. There's a way to do it on the canvas option, so like if you're really far zoomed in and you want to still see how it's affecting the like main photo, you can be like, oh, I'm gonna go in and like, ooh, I'm gonna add glitter to his eyes. Ooh, yeah. Just his eyes though. Ooh, yeah. But like you want to see what it looks like with the main picture, you can kind of like check it out. Or you can have an actual reference image. To be honest with you, I like to have my image in the actual photo, so to do that, you can kind of go in there, hit add, and then insert a photo, and you can use that as an actual layer to add, you can like trace on top of it, you can find the shapes. Like I was talking about earlier, one of the best ways to learn how to draw is to find the shapes and things. So Aaron, our man Aaron Becker, he likes to find the triangles and things. So there's this guy's triangle, triangle, triangle. Let's see, like there's a big triangle here. You know, this guy's face is a triangle. You know, things like that. Using the actual photo inside of Procreate. Now, a lot of people, again, probably say like, oh, that's cheating. You can't trace. And I would say definitely don't trace another artist's artwork. That's like a total... taboo thing, like just not taboo, it's like it's just not good to do that. Obviously make your own art, but like photo references, take the photo reference, get the anatomy in there, and then you can do your changes on top of it. Like any photo that you're referencing is not gonna have, I mean, it's not gonna have like what you want it to be. Like there's no way you're gonna find Bakugo doing exactly what you want him to do with his hair spiking the exact way that you want it to be. So, you know, like find something that's close enough, get the shapes, you know, find the triangles, find the squares, whatever you like. You know, for me, I like to find a circle and then the little thing for the face, and then just kind of going like that. I can show you with this video specifically. I started with, here's the triangle, there's my circle and the crosshair for the face, and then I erase as I go, figure out. Honestly, you're probably gonna draw some weird ass things, like really weird things. Just keep going because what will most likely happen is you will probably get to some point where it's like, oh, this is passable. This doesn't look that bad. Let's keep going. You know, so don't be weirded out if your drawing looks super weird at first. Just kind of keep going. Does anybody else have any other questions? No, I sort of just went off on that one question. It's probably probably a simple question. Didn't need it to be like an actual monologue. I'm just sort of gonna let this play. To be honest with you guys, I like watching these sort of time lapses back, because then I can kind of see, oh, I didn't like what I did there, or I really liked what I did there. Let's remember what I did so I can do it again. I love that you can see when I use the like liquify tool and all that stuff. I love the liquify tool. It's so nice. I guess if there's no other questions, I'm gonna wrap us up here. I am sort of supposed to be at my grandpa's house having dinner. So I'll probably go and do that. But again, all my links are on the side. If you guys want to come chat with me on Twitter, I am pretty much always on my DMs, so like, come hang out with me. I do answer most of my DMs on TikTok as well, so if you guys want to chat with me, feel free to send me a message and I will get to it as soon as I see it. I hope this helped, Allie. Thanks to Allie for prompting this this sort of session. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed this. Oh my god, it's gonna go through it's gonna go through our whole thing. Alright, I gotta stop this. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming. I will probably be back on again sometime this time next week if you guys like it, or if this time really didn't work for you, let me know. And I will see you guys on Twitter and TikTok. Thanks again. Bye, May. Bye, Allie. Bye, Tater Tots. Bye, everybody on TikTok. Thanks for coming. I will see you guys in another stream. Bye, Ely.